Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction for the morning show, season 1, episode 1, the pilot. After so many years, we are getting into the world of UBA, a news network where what a mess this network is. What a mess the higher ups are. What a mess they've all gotten themselves into.
Absolutely. The morning show is a show that's been recommended by you guys to us for a really long time now. And
Yeah,
season 3 is coming up pretty soon, like 3 weeks or
yeah,
3.5 weeks. Like it is very soon. So we were like, should we?
yeah.
Yeah, we doing it. So we're gonna do all of season 1, all of season 2, leading up to season 3, so that we're ready to go.
And this is a really interesting. It's dramatic at times, but it's fun at times too. There's a little bit of a campy quality to a couple of things that happen in the first episode, but I do really like shows that are kind of set around news networks where you deal with like all these social relationships. I am a defender of HBO's The Newsroom, which I think a lot of people did not like, but
And we loved Succession. I mean, it
yeah.
wasn't only about news, but I mean, what a show.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited to get in to all of this. Like you do have really good actors at the center of all of this. There's a lot of potential for things to get very, very, very messy, and that is what we all love, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have Jennifer Aniston, we have Steve Carell, and I love Reese Witherspoon. Like when she is in these types of characters, we've only seen the first episode, but
Yeah,
where she's really passionate about something and
yeah.
she's just like getting really like crazy about something. If you guys have ever seen Freeway, it's one of my all-time favorite Reese Witherspoon movies. This is from a long way back with Keith Sutherland. It's like a spin on Little Red Riding Hood. She is so good. She was really young in that, but she was so good. And she's playing a character that kind of has that same energy of, I'm taking nothing from you. Don't give me any of your nonsense. Like, I'm going to call the truth out for what it is.
Here I am. I'm just thinking about Elle Woods from Legally Blonde, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, hey, she is.
She's wonderful.
Yeah, Bradley is ambitious too, like Elle Woods. No, there's a lot of potential over the course of these seasons. We're really looking forward to getting into it.
Mm.
Before we do move forward, though, join our Patreon every Tuesday. We have live streams over there. Also, we are covering Hijack, another Apple TV show, really, really great. Shrinking, once again, Apple, fantastic. Jason Segel, and also The Bear. We are diving
Mhm.
headfirst into that wonderful meal of a show.
Okay, so let's just give sort of the basic premise of what is going on
Yeah,
here. We have Alex, we have Mitch. They have been together on the morning show, hosting the morning show for 15 years, which is a really long, deep working relationship. We learned that they have hooked up, 2 times or something over the course of this relationship that they've had on TV, but it's not really about that.
no.
It is really about their relationship as co-hosts, working together, friendship, family, like that they really are together on this show as like the marriage of co-workers sort of thing, that everyone sees them as sort of like the mom and dad that's going to come and bring you your news and you're going to trust them sort of thing. And it all falls apart because Mitch is having affairs on his wife with staff members and
Yeah.
he's been let go for it, leaving Alex by herself flapping in the wind, where she's so hurt by this for so many different levels. She's just like, I trusted you to keep things together. Like our stars were rising together. Without me, without you, like together, like this may not have happened for us, but because of our friendship and our chemistry and whatever, people tuned into us together. And now that you're gone because you decided that you wanted to sleep with some people here and you
Yeah.
couldn't take it outside of the network,
Yeah.
now I'm left by myself. Like, you really betrayed me on so many levels. And she's left to really try to figure out what happens from here. And yeah, Mitch is just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. They were going to fire you anyways. And she's just like, stop. Like, it's not about that.
The thing that I think story-wise this episode does the best is painting the picture of Alex as this very isolated,
Mhm.
lonely person who can't relate to anybody. And I mean, it even starts with the routine. Like, we see some of the routine. To do a show like the morning show, you have to get up at like freakish hours of the day when nobody else is awake. You
Mhm.
struggle to work out, get coffee, do whatever it is you need to do to get yourself prepared. And then you go in where it's these people whose jobs are to pamper you, feed you information, do whatever they can to get you prepared. Then, they want to help you, but they don't know you. No one knows you. You have a facade you put on every morning because these sort of shows in particular, like, it's news, but it's also you want to be the buddy or the parental figure or the family member to people who are watching at home. So you got to go on there with a smile and some humor, and it's a very carefully curated persona. And so you're in this job that, like, serious newscasters don't ever take seriously. And I think that's kind of like the underlying tension when Alex and Bradley are together. And we'll get to that more as it goes along. But it's just like Alex is so miserable. And I you can see that with their interaction with Mitch in particular, where it is just like, I think she does have sympathy for the people who were wronged by Mitch, but I
Mhm.
think she is also has such a hard time of like getting out of her own head and getting out of her own rage. It's like, how could you do this to me when you have basically been my partner and you have left me out to dry?
Yeah, it's a very interesting angle on this because I think we've seen other shows, like a lot of other sort of shows or takes on,
Yeah.
from the Mitch angle or from the victim's angle, but not really from this angle where it's somebody where she's just like, I trusted you, like
Yeah.
us together, we needed each other to have our stars rise. Like that scene of her actually just letting go and crying in Mitch's room, his dressing room at like 2
Yeah.
a.m. and just letting it all out. She's seeing everything that she worked for because she worked for it in a partnership fly away, that his decisions are now being put on her as almost her decisions because they're all going to affect her in ways that she didn't choose. She didn't
Yeah.
step out of line. She was there for him and stayed true to him and made sure that, what she does, she knows affects him. So she made sure she always compartmentalized
Yeah.
everything so that she could stay on top of everything to make sure nothing happened to him, that nothing happened to her. It was just such a huge betrayal for her. And yeah, it's an interesting character.
Yeah, like she already feels pretty fully formed. Like, I could see there being people out there that are just like, Alex is unlikable. I don't like how she handled Bradley. I don't like, this or that she showed up and had this conversation with Mitch, but it's just like she's clearly somebody who is struggling with a lot of different ways. She doesn't have an outlet to get a lot of this out. She does this interview with Bradley at like the worst possible time.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I could see people not having sympathy for Alex in this
Yeah.
because of how she treated Bradley, but at the same time,
Mhm.
it's like this just happened to Alex. It is
Yeah.
completely affecting Alex. And then you've got her having to do this interview with another journalist
Yeah.
who actually went off on somebody as something that Alex has, not been able to ever
Yeah.
do as much as she's wanted to be able to go off on somebody for being wrong or, crossing the line. Alex is like, nope, I've towed the line. I've played the game. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do. And look how I'm rewarded. Mitch decides to do this, and now my career is ruined. And here in comes this girl, this reporter, this other woman who actually is doing something that I think Alex wishes that she could have done herself multiple times. But because she was trained not to do this, that now this other woman is being rewarded for doing the opposite that journalists are trained to do. And I think it came in at the wrong time. And yeah, Alex shouldn't have treated her the way she did in that interview, but like she's a person and she has towed that line. And, some people can only take so much.
That whole scene, it was like, you're holier than thou. No, you're holier than thou, because I think Alex feels like Bradley is laying it on thick with her whole, I care about the facts. I care about information. This is the role that journalists should have in society. And it is very, like, I'm not going to say it's over the top, but it is very, like, sentimental, almost like an Aaron Sorkin movie at times, with how the craft of journalism and what is so important. And she's still kind of like untouched and unjaded in that way. And I think there's a part of Alex that still wishes that she could be a little bit like that. And I think Bradley is over here being just like, oh, you think you're better than me because you're sitting here on this morning show. You're asking me these really hard questions. Do you treat like, here is Chef Bobby coming on to teach you all how to make a perfect burrito? Like, are you asking him these sort of tough questions? Why do you think you're so much better than I am?
Yeah, and that's really where it comes in with that interview, is just Bradley doesn't know Alex at all,
Yeah.
how she's felt about this, how she's dealt with this. I mean, Bradley tried to start this out before they went on the air to be like, hey, listen, like, I'm really sorry
Yeah.
about what happened. Like, I hope, you're holding up okay. And Alex is just right back into professional mode. Yeah, I'm fine, moving on. Let's not talk about it. But it's like, that's mentioned right before she's about to go on an interview with another journalist who went off on somebody and has become wildly popular by herself
Yeah.
for doing that. Where Alex is like, oh, okay, and my popularity was tied to Mitch, who decided to do what he did, and now my popularity is going to fall apart. Can I even stand on my own? And now here's another journalist who is standing on her own and going viral. It's just bad timing, but not for the network, because look at good old Corey, who's watching it being like, money, 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 money.
Corey is perfectly smarmy. He is just like competent enough that I can believe he would have this job, but he's not so competent that I feel confident that he's actually going to do the right thing all the time. He's got like that little tinge of greed, but also I don't hate him. Like he is everything. Corey is one of the most interesting characters to me coming out of all this, because I think there's a lot of layers there. I think Alex is interesting. I really like Bradley. I mean, I do want to see more layers as we go on, beyond somebody who just feels like she is on all the time, and she is just like go, 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 go with every single part of her life. And I'm just like, okay, Bradley, this ain't good for you. You got to find a way to take a step back at some point and relax. I mean, it's got to be really hard being someone in her position, but just the time that we spent with these just few characters, like, I'm in on them. I'm really interested in them.
Yeah, I found it very interesting too that Alex kind of called out Bradley as an opportunist, that she was just kind of like, listen, like, you did this and the cameras were rolling. Oh, I didn't know the cameras were rolling. And Alex is kind of like, it's 2023. Everybody's filming everything, sort of thing. I know it's a couple of years ago, but 2020, it's a time when everybody's got their cameras out. Somebody's going to be filming it. It's going to end up getting on the internet. You go to the grocery store these days and buy a loaf of bread and somebody's filming it. Like, it's just the way that it is. And I agree that I don't think that Bradley was so not self-aware to know that somebody was probably going to be filming it. Now, do I think she was doing it so that it would go viral? No. Like, I don't think she was doing it for the cameras. I think she was pissed off.
Yeah.
And she, crossed the line as a journalist to tell somebody off. But I don't think she's like, oh, I wouldn't know that anyone was filming me. Well, yeah, of course somebody's filming you. You're a journalist and you know that everybody has a camera on their phone.
Yeah, I just don't think she cared. I think she was just so upset in this moment. I think she's tired. She's worn down. They've sort of established that she has spent most of her career sort of like bouncing around. She said a word that she should not have said on the air at one point.
Twice.
Yeah, which led to her ending up in this position. And I think at a certain point, you're just like, okay, when are things going to change for me? I'm out here dealing with another protest. She's obviously smart. She's obviously very good at her job. She's very prepared. I like that she, does a lot of stuff in like West Virginia, an area
Mhm.
that like we don't see all that much on TV. Like all of that sort of stuff is really interesting about her. And now we get to Mitch because I have a lot of questions about Mitch.
All right.
Like I really like Steve Carell. I'll make that very clear. I've
Mhm.
loved him since, The Daily Show, let alone The Office and Anchorman and all these sort of things. Like, I understand why they cast him because he has such a wholesome image. And, we all love Steve Carell. He does feel like America's dad. But there
Mhm.
were a couple of times where I was watching it and I was like, is Steve Carell the right person for this role? And I kind of went back and forth in my head about that.
It's really difficult when you have such an iconic role like Michael Scott.
Yeah.
It is very hard to not be Michael Scott for the rest of your life. We've seen this with other people like Chandler Bing. You are
Yeah.
Chandler Bing forever. And, yeah, we've got Jennifer Aniston has been able to move on. We've seen George Clooney was able to move on, but most people are just not able to move on from iconic roles as much as they tried. Like I tried to watch Steve Carell on The Patient, and
Mhm.
I mean, in general, that show was it was okay, but I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't even finish it, but I had a really difficult time seeing him as anything other than Michael Scott. And seeing him in this role, I was like, okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
He's America's dad, and I can see him sort of in that role. But the opposite side of the role, oh, he's cheating on his wife, he's sleeping with people at work, he's, really arrogant, he's all about his ego. I'm having a very hard time seeing it, and it might just be that he's Michael Scott forever, or it might be that there wasn't enough screen time with him for me to really believe it.
I think one of the big problems for me, I've said this many times, like, one of my big pet peeves on TV is people destroying their own stuff when they're mad. Cause it always to me is just like, why are you doing this? You got to go through the trouble of replacing all this. Like, I don't know anyone in real life who is like so upset that they're going to start breaking their own things. And when he started like smashing the TV, I was just sitting here. There was the believability aspect, but then there was also am I supposed to be laughing at this? Because, this is objectively, it's funny. I'm watching Steve Carell destroy a TV and it's ridiculous and it's over the top, but it's like, I know this show isn't a comedy. So it's like, and it's not like Succession where I think it's satirical to the point where you're supposed to laugh at Logan Roy and all this sort of nonsense. So I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing in that moment.
Listen, that TV thing brought me back to Michael Scott again. Like watching him like kind of have this TV that you can pull away from the wall. I was just like, "Oh, this is like the time on The Office
Yeah.
when Michael Scott had that tiny little he's like, "Oh, I have a little
Yeah.
flat screen," and he pulls up this tiny little TV off the wall when he was living with Jan. I was just the connection is too much for me with that actor. It's too bad.
Well, here is my big tinfoil hat thing coming out
All
of
right.
because neither one of us have seen ahead, so we don't know
No.
what's coming with any of this. I think that there probably were discussions at some point about replacing Alex, but I don't necessarily think it's framed in the way that Mitch is saying it because
No.
in the world of TV, I think you always have discussions about is this person the right person for the job? Should we look at somebody else for the role? I think that's fairly commonplace. And I would be shocked if those discussions didn't happen after a certain period of time. It sounds like the ratings were starting to decline, and all of that is true. Now, do I think that they were like, next week we're getting Alex out the door? No, I don't think that. I think he was playing it up and manipulating and being over the top with all of it. But I'm sure that they probably had discussions because in the TV business, you have discussions about everything.
Yeah, and I'm sure she's probably questioning it because I mean, even the investigation into Mitch, she had no idea. She was completely like blindsided by when it was sort of brought up. That was like, oh yeah, we've been kind of looking into it for a little while, and she's like, this affects my career too. Nobody said
Yeah.
anything to me. I didn't know anything that was going on. Like, I I'm not sure how other people feel about the Alex character. We haven't seen further on of what she's going to be doing, but like I really felt for her in this episode. It was rough. Even the way she was treating Bradley, but her having to go on there and have that talk like this character is
Yeah.
complicated, like really, really layered, with nobody that she can really lean on because the one person she was leaning on betrayed her. It's Mitch.
I am really interested to see what happens next with her. And like that's the most important thing out of all of this is that she is really complicated and she did some things in this episode that are not great, but as long as you can understand the reasoning behind it and why she feels the way that she does, it works. And it
Mhm.
does work for me
Yeah.
coming out of this episode. And I am compelled by her because she's such an interesting person that we haven't seen a lot of on TV before.
Mhm.
That's what makes the morning show work through one episode. We still have to wait and see if they can actually hold this together the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, the setup was really good, was a little bit predictable that it was moving towards, oh, and they're gonna hire Bradley.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, of course. But it's more about the journey and the journey is there.
All right. Well, we will continue our own journey through the world of the morning show, and we're excited to see where it goes. So
Mm,
we hope you guys are along for the ride. Join our Patreon. We've got a link for you in the description below. Live streams every Tuesday. Thank you to everyone who is
thank
supporting
you.
us over there, and we will see you here next time.